Hello, and welcome to this Old Fag, episode 5. We made it to 5. It is early December. Not quite the holiday season yet, but rapidly advancing. And I will just give an immediate shout out to those who are celebrating whatever. Have a good holiday. Excuse the cough. I had the flu right before Thanksgiving, and I'm a flu shot person. I always get it, and rarely have gotten the flu, but this year it eluded the vaccine, and I got it bad. And I know others are dealing with it, and there's a whole re-emergence of COVID as well as respiratory, viruses too that are of neither regime, shall we call them? Yeah, that are taking down young people, that are older people are suffering from. So I hope you're all taking good care of yourself, because I got to tell you, this flu was a killer. I haven't been sick for a while, but man, as you can see, I still have a little gook in here. But I've always dealt with bronchial issues when I was a kid, and when I get an infection in here, it doesn't want to leave, because I'm a very hospitable host. In general. Not always, but in general. How so? Well, there are a number of queer issues that have been on my mind lately. First of all, just today, the big announcement came that Brittney Griner was coming back to the U.S. In exchange for some ancient Russian arms dealer who's been sitting here for decades. And this makes me happy. It may open up questions about other people who are still in the hands of the Russians, and we should try and make an effort to get everyone back here, because they're a bunch of crazies. They just recently put through some kind of ruling that says you can't, there should be no gay propaganda. First it was just about kids, right? Because we love to talk about how we as gay people are constantly, putting out propaganda to get young people involved in gay sex. And the Russians really now are saying you can't even do that to adults. You can't talk to an adult about, anything homosexually involved in whatever. And not that I've ever had good feelings about the Russians, but this just goes on to prove that they are, and particularly Mr. Putin, is a homophobe who cannot deal with anything that might upset his status quo. As we find here in our own country, where people are trying, people on the right have been trying to validate him for these feelings. We see that in people like Ben Shapiro, or I don't know, who are the other nuts? Charlie Kirk, and who's the one with the beard who it looks like a merkin on his face? I can't think of his name right now. It'll come to me. Steven Crowder, is that who I'm thinking of? Yeah, he's the one with the merkin on the face. And the idea that these governments and officials are so interested in what's going on in your bedroom and in your home. Not even just your bedroom, your home in general. Because we had an instance here on my island, Staten Island, this past weekend, where the Children's Museum, part of the Snug Harbor development over in West Brighton here, conducted a drag queen story hour. Now, fortunately, our drag queen story hour, which was protested, was not canceled, which seemed to happen in a couple of other places because armed right-wing militia MAGA nuts showed up. So to keep everyone safe, it was canceled. Here we just had about 50 regular MAGA nuts. Proudly, the front person was a gentleman named Scott Lebedo. And I want to bring his name up because he is one of these kind of second, third level crazy MAGA QAnon nuts who has been operating on this island for quite some time. And in the traditional kind of crazy MAGA style, his agenda keeps shifting. At the beginning of the pandemic, he was so concerned about people's freedoms and being able to go to a bar without a mask on that he participated in our little local rebellion at somebody's pub who had claimed he had autonomy from the government, from everybody. They could do whatever they wanted in their bar. And this was not looked upon by the government very well and the police very well, but Scott Lebedo is a big Blue Lives Matter guy. So what happened, Scott? You know, here you are. There were police there to shut down that bar, and there you were, complaining against your brethren and what they were doing for the better safety of everybody, mind you, because he was upset about people being able to go to Bed Bath & Beyond and buy purple penguins, plastic penguins, purple plastic penguins. Who cares about purple plastic penguins? Anyway, as I said, this past weekend at the Children's Museum, they decided to have this drag queen story hour, which was very well attended. People from the local Staten Island Pride Center were there to counter-protest Mr. Lebedo and his 50 or so people who showed up to protest the sexualization of children by drag queens. Now, if I may quote him, Scott Lebedo likes drag queens. Scott Lebedo has gone to drag shows. Scott Lebedo likes gay people. This is like, right? What do we call that? A dog whistle. It's like when you say, I have black friends. I'm not racist. But even more important is the idea that he believes that these people, drag queens or people who like to dress up, are sexualizing children. Dear Scott, Miss Staten Island. Have you judged that contest? I bet you have. What's more groomer than taking your young little child of, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Dress them up, putting them in skirts, putting them in pantyhose, putting makeup on them, having them go out there and twirl and spin and dance and act like little girls. Who are the groomers here? Little Miss Sunshine. May I recommend that to you sometime, Scott? Scott also is a neighbor of mine. Scott has threatened me in the past. Scott lives 4 doors down from me and likes to threaten anybody who confronts him. He has little signs on his windows saying, smile, you're on candid camera. Who cares? He's so afraid of his vehicle that announces that he's an artist. Scott LeBedo, American artist. Scott LeBedo is not an American artist. Scott LeBedo is an American huckster. In the grand tradition, ergo, a great person to be scamming people on the right and grifting them. Scott always has some other agenda. Why does a man, unmarried, close to 60, from what I understand, so interested in other people's children? That's kind of creepy, Scott, right? Why don't you take care of your own children? It's enough you've gone and, painted American flags all over every public school here on Staten Island. But who are you to tell any family how to raise their children? Are you a parent? Nobody seems to know. I've asked people here on the island. Nobody knows. And this is why I kind of wanted to make this piece tonight, because I wanted to bring this gentleman to some other people's awareness. He does things on Instagram. He is quite live on YouTube. And his name is Scott LeBedo. LOBAIDO. Look him up. Query him on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram as to how many children he has. If his children... No, that's not what I want to say. If he, you don't need to... Yes, you do. You need to have children in order to sit there and make these kind of judgments. If you're had a 5 or 6-year-old who might be attending, okay, but do you? I don't think so. And there's always, you remind me of the men who, when I was in college, way back in the mid-70s and early 80s, I went to Rutgers University, and one of the reasons I wanted to go to Rutgers was because they had a gay alliance. It was a group that was open to the, I guess what would have been the, gay and lesbian community at the time. And every year, they would have a representative from NAMBLA come, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, which is where we get people like Milo Yakanakanopoulos Morris or whatever his name is. This idea that, oh, well, back in ancient times, men took young boys under their wing and tutelage and taught them about sex and used them basically sexually. Now, I they were always in an uncomfortable group that came. Because as older gay people, we didn't necessarily want to be thought of as grooming young men. And we would often step away from that. Because there are consequences in society for proposing these ideas. I would just like to add or mention on the flip side of this, even though I found it discouraging and something I didn't want to be associated with, I also knew that by the time I was 8, I knew what I liked. There you go. I didn't have sex with anyone for another 5 years, but by 8, I knew I liked guys. And I think you'll find, at least in the gay male community, this is not unusual. Mateo Lane jokes about, 7-year-olds coming out. I know, and I agree. It's like, what? How do you even know? But it's a different world. As more of us have come out, more people see acceptance, and more people decide that it's okay and it's safe and I can do this. And it's happened in the gay community, the lesbian community. Now we see it in the trans community, the bisexual community, the intersex community. I mean, there's just more and more people are feeling more comfortable about being who they are. And that's great. But taking your child to story time where there's some sort of incredibly fabulous dressed up person there to tell you a story or two and make some art or talk or chat and sing. What's sexual about that? And the fact that a 58-plus-year-old gentleman named Scott Lebedo, who has no children and isn't married and has never been married as far as I've ever heard, is so concerned about our local children. Who's the groomer? I'd like to give a shout out to Rachel Kinsey for the whole concept of how beauty pageants are totally grooming young girls to think of themselves in ways or be things that they're not or don't want to be for money. Thank you for listening. Happy holidays.